Okay, you can cover general session, but yes, just give me Alright, thank you for joining us for this meeting of Belterra Sports Directions. I am Catherine Williams and president of the board. I will be serving as the presiding officer for tonight's meeting. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode at this time as we will follow meeting to order. Belterra board members present today include Vice President Treasurer Bob Light, Secretary Patricia Layden, Directors Peter Ogden, Howard Ballard, Fred Sanchez, and two girls LeBron on Zoom. Noting the presence of a quorum, may I have a motion to call this meeting to order at 4:41 p.m.
So motion.
You want a second? Second. Pete's got a second. Any discussion? No? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Oh, that's me. May I have a motion now to adjourn and reconvene into executive session at 4:41 p.m. So moved. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously. And we will now enter executive session. Are you okay with looking your laptop so that we can stand in it close so that we know nobody else can enter?
Correct.
Thank you. So upon entering into regular session from executive session, we summarize quarterly action taken for expenditures approved. I will summarize today's executive session and the session of May 19th. 2023. But before I do that, I think I'm just gonna go around and say I'm Pat Williams, I'm the board president. We did this earlier, but they weren't here, right? That's okay. Then we have Bob White over here, who's our vice president and treasurer. Tricia Dan, who's our secretary. We have Fred Sanchez. Is it Sanchez or Sanchez? Okay. Howard Ballard and Pete Ogden are here today.
He said he would be here for open session, but I should be here.
So the girl will be here shortly, and that is his chair. So I will summarize today's executive session. The executive session from May 19th, 2023. So in both of these sessions, we talked about our vendor contract review for management. Just kind of what we expect of management, and so we're putting that together, reviewing it. We're gonna sit with management and talk about their thoughts about it, and then we will speak more on it in the next board meeting. And then we also wrote off $222.36 in bad debt on a home that was foreclosed on, but that was after collecting almost $10,000 due to a trustee sale. So that is everything from our previous actions. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the board held on May 11th, 2023, and the organizational meetings held on July 7th, 2023 as presented?
So
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Us, you want to mute us.
Okay, that motion carries unanimously. Not anonymously, that would not be allowed. And now we're going to turn the time over to Martha for our monthly management report.
okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Pat. I'm going to do some housekeeping here and let some people in the meeting. Well, it's all duty here. Very good. All right. So it has been an extremely busy, not just month, but quarter since last time the board met. For the management team, we fielded 398 phone calls just during this last month of July and 261 thus far in August. Maintenance was certainly the name of the game this summer. So just kind of a quick rundown. Some of these things were reported in the Belterra blast, but just kind of let you guys know what's going on behind the scenes. So we replaced the broken entry chandelier with the one inside the foyer because couldn't get one to match exactly, so why not move the one from inside and outside, because the outside one wasn't gonna work, was not repairable. And we got a lovely ceiling fan for the inside of the foyer. New clock at the pool, more umbrellas installed at the pool, air fresheners in the pool restrooms, but Lord knows they need them. New pool chair lift battery and charger, so that's the ADA lift to get you actually into the water. Water heater replacement, rec center gutters cleaned and repaired. Power wash the rec center walkways, the entry vestibule, that's always an ongoing maintenance thing though, but it did get cleaned up. All of the windows in the rec center were cleaned, and then just some miscellaneous paint touch-ups, patching, and lots of things, so we're always keeping an eye on things that need to be taken care of. The fun is definitely always on the agenda. Byron?
Right here. Hello.
There you are, hi. Byron organized and executed 26 events since June the 1st for you guys. That's a lot, 26 events since June 1st. On the communications front, we have 3,370 residents receiving emails. So they receive our Belterra blast, lifestyle lowdown, and 69% of the rate on those emails. So if you ever have a neighbor that says, I gotta do that Captain Audience here, anybody ever says, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't have emails, send them to us, because that's the main point of communication for us. So that's it for me right now.
All right, thank you so much, Marcia. Now we're on to the financial review with Bob.
Okay, number 9. So as of July 31st, 2023, our total assets, which split into the 2 different sections, Belterra Communities Association with coast money is separate. For Belterra Community Association, our operating funds are $541,120.72. Our reserve is sitting at $580,998.61. And our capital improvement fund is currently at $264,500.08. For the code, their operating is at $5,615.53. The code reserve is sitting at $168,734.82. So the final adjustments were made on the July financials to ensure that all the code operating expenses and income, including their reserve transfers, are reflected on their code operating statement. While the code does not have many expenses directly attributable to assets available to their residents, such as the gates, and their funds have always been segregated in the BCAs, this separation will allow us to track their variances better. The auditor and the employees aware of this change, and management has asked them to confirm their true calculations of the Belterra Community Association versus code expenses back to the code's inception in 2017. And this will be done along with the 2023 audit. Management provided a board with full budget variance report. However, we had some unanticipated expenses for greater pools last incident a month and a half ago. And additional data quality services that freeze damage not the primary reasons for the $8,405.40 that is lost. This net loss is calculated without the excess operation capital transfer that was operated by the board earlier in the year. So currently, as of July 31st, 2003 financials, the Belterra Community Association holds an average of 5 months of operating expenses for the budget amounts. Our operating cash reserves will be 76% funded. Now, under 2022 audit, Armstrong, Ball and Associates completed the 2022 audit, was included in the packet for the board review. At this point, I'm asking for a motion to accept the 2022 audit as presented by Armstrong, Ball and Associates.
That we accept the 2022 audit as presented by Armstrong, Ball and Associates.
And can I have a second?
Thank you.
All right. Any discussion?
Thought it was really awesome. I think you got money back on our taxes from it. So it's positive.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. We need a board member's present.
All right. Okay, so upon Oh, wait, no, sorry, no, it's not.
All right, so now back to our 2023 audit engagements. Armstrong Law and Associates have also provided an engagement for audit and tax preparation services for year end 2023 for $5,200. May I have a motion to engage Armstrong Law and Associates for the 2023 audit and tax preparation at a cost of $5,200?
Oh, and then not in this one, but we do that in the annual meeting, which was back in the end of June, so I can see where the confusion might be for that one. Thank you, though, for your participation.
Pete, so, all right, may I have a second? Okay, Brett and Patricia seconded that as a tie. Do we have any discussion?
Yes.
Last year.
$5,200.
And so I have to talk to Marcia about that, and you typically don't. For that low of an increase, you don't typically try to find someone new because they're very expensive, because they have to go back and audit all the previous audits.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. And any opposed? All right, again, motion carries unanimously among the board members present.
Right now. With the establishment, thank you so much about that. The financials. So with the establishment of committees, we would like the chairs and liaisons of each committee to provide a short update regarding activities, accomplishments, and requests for the board. So first, we have the architectural modification committee, and Marcia will be presenting that for us today.
Yes. So the AMC reviewed 13 submittals in July and 4 so far in August. Those kind of broke down into roof replacement. A lot of y'all do roof replacements for obvious reasons. Pool and spa requests, solar equipment, deck and patio extensions, and window replacements. So current average number of days for the AMC to reach a decision is 26 days.
Thank you so much, Marcia. Next, we have the code committee with Jen.
So, yeah, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Jim Maziak for the board, people that don't know me. So the code is the area within in the street between the security gates on Mendocino Lane. Do you have the report, or can you put that
Oh,
up?
I did not include that in here, I'm sorry.
So the format, to give you a summary of the report that we were chartered late October of last year by the Resident Advisory Committee, and we held our first meeting in November. We asked for volunteers, and we had 10 people volunteer to either be on the committee or support it in some fashion. So our process is like we established all the open issues at the time. There are 5 open issues, and I think as of tonight, we should close 3 of them. So I appreciate all the issue leads taking that effort. And but since the code information, especially the financials, has now been segregated from BCA as a group, Marcia suggested, and I took her up on her offer, that maybe we should just have a quarterly meeting of the code committee, like a mini board meeting, but have the code committee sit where you do and invite the residents to participate then and identify any issues, given them an updates, and Marcia or I can get the financial status up to that point. But since we're segregating this information, we thought it would make sense then to have a separate meeting. So we'll start that before the next board meeting in October, and Marcia will look at some dates where that can happen. I'll send an announcement out to the co-residents tomorrow, letting them know that that's what we'd like to do. So up to this point, we had 5 issues. Security gate reliability is the biggest one. For those who don't live in the code, you probably noticed the gates are almost always open. So the system is just not reliable. At a previous board meeting, I think it was in May, the board approved a preventive maintenance contractor, and they've since made several attempts to fix it. They're currently working now. Problem is, it's just a bad system. It doesn't have any diagnostics. The contractor is kind of guess what the problem is. So at the time that contract was approved, they also gave Marcia a quote for completely redoing the operators to get operators, which are the issue. And so Ken Cronin is our issue lead for that. And so in talking to Ken and Marcia, they kind of agreed, let's give this a month or so and see if they continue being reliable. And if not, replace the operators. There are sufficient funds in the reserve for that. It's about $30,000 to replace all 4 operators. So, but the gates are fine. You know, the technology just moved on, and it wasn't the best system when it was installed. I talked to the contractor. There's some inherent installation problems with the gate. When the cove was built, you can see there's two layered different types of asphalt that was laid. So unfortunately, all the wires that are in the ground, the sense cars going over, cross that crack. And so with expansion contraction of the asphalt, they keep breaking. So that system is just never going to work reliably. So we'll probably end up, Marcia and Ken will come back to you with a recommendation to replace the operators. So the second big issue is just the whole idea of the green space maintenance and ice damage removal. WCID finally got around to doing that a couple of, I think it was the end of June. And Steve Segal kind of was our issue lead for that. We had an issue too then. There was some confusion on the boundaries of where the retreat ended and where WCID property began. So Marcia's worked with Samantha Bethke of WCID to resolve that. And she's going to talk later in this meeting on new business about a contract to mow that area. No one takes care of that corner at all. And the grass is about, it looks like corn at this point. So that issue I think will get resolved. We still have privacy concerns on the trails and the Lavaca homes because of the ice damage. So I want to work with Marcia and WCID on alternatives and how to fix that problem. And we might consider using some of the reserves to help with that as well. Because there are a lot of entities that surround the cove and are part of the cove, a lot of our residents wanted to know who kind of is responsible for what. And on the Belterra website, there's a kind of a summary of who takes care of what, who owns what, but we want a little more detail on that. So I've worked with Marcia over the last couple of months, and she just finished getting some deed restriction information on who takes care of and maintains the roads. So Hayes County owns the road.
No,
WCIC owns the road,
but the
and
supplemental declaration states that
Yeah,
the code.
but the code is
bears the
responsible
cost.
for maintenance. So all that's in that, and so Marcia is again going to present to you later for approval, and we'd like that posted on the website because Marcia put all other Belterra information in that as well. So I think that should clear up any concerns about or issues about who owns what, who maintains what, where the liability is. The final item, and Bob mentioned that already, the coal capital reserves have now been segregated and updated with the 22 audit. And now the coal will have monthly financial statements and year to date. So we'll present that at these quarterly meetings. Because of, as I understand, because of the original developers transfers, the coal is overfunded by about 270%. So there's a lot of excess funds available. So I'd like to work with Marcia and Bob on getting an idea of what we could, what's possible to do with those reserves for capital improvements. And Marcia's offered to send out like a survey monkey to our residents and say, you know, hey, these are things we could quote legally use these reserves for. I mean, one alternative is just leave them alone, just leave them there. And you know, you probably have some really great block parties, but I think Taylor Swift's available. So, but I think we'll have to see what's possible. But you know, if we replace the gate operators, those are 6 years ahead of their useful life. So we'd be kind of stealing some money from the current reserves for that. I don't know, is there a reserve breakdown for the cove assets?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes.
So we can see how much money, but I'm sure there's not 30,000 there. So so we use some of that excess to pay for that. So again, I hope those 5 issues, I think 3 of them should be cleared out tonight. The security gates, I think we have a plan to fix that just in case. And so we'll use the October meeting to identify any other new issues, but again, I want to appreciate the board and Marcia specifically for helping to resolve a lot of these issues, so, so thanks very much. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your hard work on that. We really appreciate it. All right, our next committee is the Service Providers Health Insurance Committee with Pete.
As Kat mentioned, summarizing previous meetings, we've had a couple of conversations as a board as we work to take the output of the committee regarding how we can effectively manage our relationship with the management company, provide effective feedback, help collaborate and provide progress in that direction. Feedback committee continues to be focused on that. Don gave a great update at the annual meeting on what we do more broadly, but at this time, we're focused on how do we create the proper channels and the logs and the information over time so we can continue to provide productive feedback to management and make sure the right things are getting addressed and seeing progress and improvement. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that update, Pete, and your hard work. I know that process takes a lot of time. All right, and then we're on to the strategic planning committee. So the first item that we've been working on is a reiterative feedback loop. Marcia, will you take the reins on that, please?
Sure, so Tuggerl and I worked together on, figuring out, what's gonna work best for Belterra. So reiterative feedback loop, project issue tracking, right now we use a Excel document. Not expected, but is there a better tool out there? So we currently utilize an online software called SmartWebs for violations and architectural modification requests. So it all gets tracked through there. Well, SmartWebs also has a component that is called work orders. So I endeavored to look into it. How can we leverage this existing software where we just basically tell SmartWebs to, flip the switch on the work order component for us, it's already effectively set up. And how can I leverage that for not just work orders, so maintenance types of things around here, but also for committee projects and, who's taking the lead on that. So worked with our IT department with CCNC because we have a person in the office that is kind of the SmartWebs guru, if you will. And, I had a couple of phone calls with her to figure out, well, we do this here and we move this here, how's this gonna work? So I'm presenting to the board tonight what this can do and how we can leverage it. So we can assign vendors or committee chairs. So you'll see a lot of things, again, it's called work orders because it was originally intended for maintenance types of projects. So you can assign a vendor, but the concept is when there's a committee chair or someone who is in charge of a particular project, they could be set up as a vendor in the system, and there's a reason for that. The person who set up can actually have a login and be able to go in, add notes, documents, photos, links, things, everything. And then the other committee members and board members would have viewing capabilities so that they can go online and actually, they're at 1 o'clock in the morning, you can't sleep, they want to know, where cat's out with that survey. They can look it up and say, oh, now she can move the progress notes to, to the next level. As I mentioned, it does have a board view option, so that we only no editing. So as we go through, this is flexible. We just decide that the board needs to have a little more flexibility, then we can, look into that in the future. And all of this doesn't lock us into this part ever. So this is a tool we can see and utilize because it's kind of hot off the press information. Sarah's over there probably going to tell me to stop talking, but CCNC is Sarah's the senior vice president of CCNC. She's here. CCNC is about to roll out a whole technology package that would include the resident app, and it would have a component like this. So this would be something that we could utilize in the interim, because there is a need right now. And then when CCNC rolls out that additional software component, we can look at utilizing that. So I'm very excited about that. I've been with CCNC 14 and a half years, and we're getting an app, and it's really great. Let's see here.
It's in testing phase right now. We have a sort of beta group of residents and communities that are going to be utilizing it beginning in November. And working on all the bugs, and then we hope to launch it as soon as we can after.
You need to know. Text.
We love volunteerism.
So one of the, things we need is to set priorities on things. There's been a question of, gosh, there's all these things that need to be done. It's a myriad of things, but as management, we need to convey to you what's top priority for us as a board. And so that can be worked into there. So I know how to work the list, basically. Because the list is long. Upload documents, like I said before, historical information. Obviously, this will be it's new, but some of those things will be migrated. There are already projects, so we put that historical information in there. And detailed and timestamped activity notes. So you work with an Excel document right now, I'm gonna put in there that it's such and such date, and here's my notes. Well, I don't have to do that, just put my notes in there and it automatically timestamps it. All right. So it's maybe hard for the board to see, but I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of, it's a screenshot of what the board view looks like. So it shows, it assigns a work order number for everything. So if there's a resident that calls in and says, I'm reporting this and I would like to follow up on this, right? We can give you that work order number and then when you call back in, you can give us that number. So kind of similar to when you're calling any kind of service provider, there's some sort of tracking for that as well. So like I said, I assigned myself as a vendor, my personal email address here, so I wanted to see what did it look like on the user end. And to be able to go in there and add those as that user. So just a little bit of what that looks like. And when you do click on one of those line items, this is what pops up, showing you the detail and who it's assigned to, what the status is. If it's assigned to a particular amenity in the community, so it is a work order type of situation, we'll have, the amenity being like the pool and rec center building, the basketball courts, we'll have all these different amenities and they will be shown on the map there. You can upload documents. This is really great because I know sometimes the board emails back and forth and then you gotta go back and search who attached to what. This is one location where all of that would live. You can just go there and live it, breathe it. As I mentioned before, the work order is set up for amenities. So the way we'll be leveraging the amenity category for committee projects, board projects that are not necessarily maintenance related would be a committee project as the amenity. So we can actually sort those projects in that viewer here as well. So be able to pull all of the SPC projects together, pull all the code projects together.
So is that something that we have to look through there, or is that something?
So it is $75 a month for adding this component. So technically it's under my approval authority, but it is an ongoing expense, so I'd rather the board, somebody makes a motion to proceed with it.
And this specifically isn't on the agenda, but it's under the item, gentlemen, to make a motion on it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Would anybody like to make a motion?
This is ready to roll now.
There would be some setup time, because once you guys approve it, then I give the okay to IT, and then they will ask me for, okay, what categories do you want? So there'll be probably a couple weeks of setup time.
I'll make a motion to get the work orders as detailed programs, just presented.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimous. Wonderful, all right, so then the next thing under the strategic planning committee is our annual survey. So we have the committee members and their spouses take it to kind of give an average range of time that it would take. One person filled it out exactly how they would fill it out as a resident. It took 10 minutes. One person filled out every comment box and entered all their information. And that one took 20 minutes. So there's a little bit of range. None of the questions are required, so you can skip whatever you don't want to answer. The 10 areas are community management, and the purpose is to understand residents' experience with management. The second is communication, to understand how our current communication is, perceived by residents and how we can improve. The third is third-party vendors, and that's to understand residents' experiences with third-party vendors on site, such as lifeguard, management, soccer shots, the vendors that come to our activities. Fourth is lifestyle, and that's to understand how residents feel about our lifestyle programming, and then understand how we can better serve them. And then the fifth area is amenity maintenance, understand how residents feel about the maintenance of our amenities and how we can improve those. The sixth area is our emergency aid, understand how residents view on how the HOA responds to emergencies and kind of what they would like to see. Seventh is the potential amenity updates and new amenities. So understand which amenities residents would like to see improved, which ones they'd like to see added. So that way the strategic planning committee can start building out an amenities survey and send out to residents. The eighth area is volunteerism, just extending the opportunity for residents like this man back here to raise their hand and to help on certain projects and or join committees. I like when you raised your hand without even being asked, that was amazing. And then the ninth area is resident information, just understand each resident's household more so we can better serve them. What are their ages, what are their interests? Which amenities do they use regularly, etc. And then the 10th area is just survey feedback. Thank you residents for completing it and then asking feedback on how we can do the survey better next year. So that's our annual survey. It was sent to the board last week. And so I don't know how y'all felt about it, if y'all want to make a motion to approve it and work on sending it out, or if y'all want to create a working session where we just discuss the annual survey. What are your thoughts? Awesome, so then I will make a note of that and we will get a working session together for that. Thank you. Alright, and then let me see what's next. Alright, and then next we have the welcome committee, and that is with David.
Thank you very much. You know, I can't come to a board meeting and not talk, so. First, I wanted to thank the board members who've been on the board for your continued service. You all do a great job, and thank you for helping neighbor, and want to welcome the new board members, Fred and Howard and Tugru. Welcome to the board. So the welcome committee has focused the efforts on ensuring residents are contacted as early as possible. Management sends a welcome email to all closings once a month with a link to our new digital welcome packet and invites them to attend our new Belterra Basics new owner orientation. And as we've done the orientations, the number of people who attend continues to grow every meeting, which is a great sign. For those who not supply the association contact information at closing, yes, that happens. Management has created a postcard that we will utilize soon. Postcards are an economical way to ensure every new member is contacted and welcomed. And we have a request for the board member to appoint a new member who would like to be on the welcoming committee. Margie Chabri, is Margie here by any chance? Okay. Well, Margie comes with 10 years of experience serving at a welcome committee at a previous community. She has lived in Dripping Springs for 25 years and now resides in the Cove. She has a lot of community involvement, not just within her community, but in the community. I think she'd be a wonderful addition to the welcoming committee. And so we do need the board to appoint her.
I make a motion to appoint Margie Thompson to the welcome committee. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. You really appreciate you. Okay, so yeah. All right, so now we're on to old business. The board should ratify that it took the following actions within meetings since the last board meeting on May 11, 2023. The board took the following actions. Engagement of Brady Chapman Collin and Associated for an environmental insurance policy at an annual premium of $7,108.67 payable from operating. The second was engagement of Progressive Commercial Aquatics for the pool sand filter media replacement for $8,118.76 payable from reserves. Engagement of Wi-Fi Joe for Recreation Center network upgrades repairs for $3,628.80. And Johnson Controls for converting the fire alarm monitoring system to cellular for $3,373.54 annually, payable from operating. And the final one, David of Marathon Fitness for the replacement of the 2 rec center gym growers with 2 concept 2 growers for $3,236 and that's not fair, 36 cents in fuel from reserves. May I have a motion to ratify the aforementioned actions taken by the board after the prior meeting, but before this meeting? Thank you. May I have a second? Second. Great. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. That motion carries unanimously. So now we're moving on to the basketball court to multi-use court conversion. We have a firm bid for running electrical power to the basketball court. We would like to revisit the subject of converting the existing basketball court to a multi-use court and having lighting. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion on that?
It's, what was.
Because we need all the numbers. And yeah. Are we allowed to discuss the options prior to making the motion? Okay, so on this, there's a few different options. So option 1 is we can resurface the basketball court as is. That's option 1. Option 2 is we can expand it going towards the parking lot and put a pickleball court on either side. I've seen this done at the YMCA's, I've seen this done at the church gyms. And so that will allow basketball to continue this way, pickleball on either side. Obviously the next would be removable. And then the other and then another option is to add lighting. So we can add lights to the basketball court, the pickleball court can be used regularly. So this is the matrix of all the different options. Oh, and then one other thing that's in there is right now we have the way to move the basketball hoops up and down is a handle you have to go to the management office for. So you can only get it to 5 minutes of Friday. And then when you use it to spin it, your knuckles grind against the fence, which isn't fun, and which is why you see the fence kind of curve, because people shoulder it to have it go up and down. And so the other options here is just, you say solder, well, they weld, solder, thank you. To solder those on, so that way they're there whenever people want them. So. And then also the other option, because obviously we don't want people grinding their knuckles, would either be to kind of make an adjustment to the fence where it goes out and then down, or to take the basketball posts and just move them in a few inches when they do the resurfacing. So those are kind of options on the table for the board members to discuss and decide what we would like to do.
We're gonna tell them about the 2 kind of smart issues, so we're like, they kind of put together.
Yeah, people like that.
Sorry.
Just describe it, work it in.
Okay, so the way the basketball court is set up right now, we have an option where we could put 1 pickleball court in, just research it and just be 1 pickleball court in the center. Or if we widen it, remember how by 20 feet, we talked about this last time going for parking lot, then you can put in 2 pickleball courts on either half. So you could have 1 half playing basketball, 1 half playing pickleball. You can have both halves playing pickleball, you could do basketball. It just kind of allows for more participation.
So if you enlarge, you can still have 2 pickleball games going on at the same time and basketball.
No,
No.
so if you enlarge it, it's 2 pickleball.
Oh, okay.
one pickleball would be perpendicular to the basketball, back and forth, and then if you did two. It's perpendicular, that you just have to really be in the center.
It'd be the center, if you're losing my sister, if you did it, why, somebody came and like pickleball, no one can play basketball. It's basketball or pickleball, and they don't like.
Y'all got folks just built a pickleball court? Y'all got folks just built a pickleball area?
So that is a good question, and that's what kind of practiced us wanting to do the extension is we did hit that goal, but we have a gas line that runs through our property so that we can build on top. And so we talked to WCID one, and we were like, hey, can we have just a small part of your property? And we'll give you a piece over here that's next to the trail, and keep it a trail. But WCID have restrictions on what can be built on the property and what has to be done. And so we would have had to engage a $90,000 engineering report to just find out if we could build the first. And so we as a board weren't feeling comfortable to spend $90,000 to get unknown. And so this is kind of our solution to that. That's the question. Another time.
For the field reservation, for pickleball.
I'm imagining where we have to be, it is a popularity of it, yes, which I have experience with, I mean, I've got meetings with tennis courts and there's a reservation system created, it's.
And then you got it, man. So if you want to serve it out, we'll get a call for us. It's a lot.
Yeah,
So that again.
so you could play half court basketball and one pickleball.
Get all resolutions for weekends. Or hours. So what I've done in other communities is that you have to get your reservations in by close of business on Friday, and then we would just put a bulletin board out there showing here's the reservations for the weekend. I assumed it would be something like that, but I asked because the people can just show up like, and if it is posted and you go take a look at it, and it's posted at Friday at 5, then, okay, we're up at 9 tomorrow, so you can, go. But you have, it's a usually first come, first served.
And the lighting, how does that look for the automatic cutoff?
The lighting,
We would control.
that's TBD at this point. It would likely be a timer. That's the economical situation where you have create a timer. But I know that we've talked about if we upgrade the access system in the future, maybe we can make it access log, put that component on it. But right now, we'd like to just be a timer on the light switch.
Was there's nothing that was,
Correct.
How are you, they're wanting to keep that work intact and just add equipment ports.
So the pickleball, this has been a multi-year project that the sport has been working on. Basically what happened during the COVID shutdown, escalating equipment and materials costs, the price skyrocketed to just over $200,000 along with that $90,000 engineering assessment. And that's when we had that fund. It is the most judicious use of capital. Plus maintaining the scale.
Because we had to get land from WCID one, and when we did that, they required engineering reports on their land, and that was gonna be $90,000. And so we just felt like that was a big decision for the board to make. And 90K and then didn't know.
Basically,
And so we're trying to figure out how to do the pickleball, but only pay the price of pickleball and get it for sure.
so basically what it comes down to is that engineering reports can look at around inside of its, they're gonna tell us it's the ground is able to support the ordinance. We know that there's a gas line that goes underneath the area that the golf course was slated to be built. And you would be able to build over that line, but if there was ever any maintenance that's required on that line, they would have to carry it with the law enforcement, and that would not be the responsibility of the one to rebuild the course, the responsibility. So that's why we're looking at that, along with some of the other budget items that we had fixed for 2022, specifically live person pool, and we didn't feel it was the best. We didn't feel it was the best use of all the money into that project. So that's why
It would have completely drained the capital.
it would. So that's why we asked the standalone walkers that had. Didn't like that, and she.
So I was like, there's gotta be a solution, there has to be a solution, so this is the best.
I think everybody in the board agrees that this is not the ideal solution to bring in the quality community, which seems to be wildly popular, but this is the best one. But right now, that's what needs to potentially influence our financial situation.
My thoughts that they did the popularity. Plus, they built this. No one that deals with that. I agree, so. That's.
Well, and we can also block times off where pickleball can be played these times. As well, and that's all that's allowed to sign up.
And that's the walk in the park place that we're in right now. It's right inside our.
How long was that for?
It's, well, during the summertime, you know, the school's out, you know, it's pretty. I won't say packed, but there's usually someone out there playing basketball, and almost every evening when I leave, there's people out there playing basketball.
And I mean, it's at times like 9 to noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's pickleball. Like there's parameters we can set, and we can change those over time if they're not working.
There are no alternative site.
Not really, we don't own a whole ton of land, we see a lot of land, but we own approximately 9 acres here. And exactly a big chunk of that, like Bob mentioned, the gas pipelines through. So if we were to build on top of that, we had to tear it up, we would have to. We'd be on the hooks rebuilding it, so it doesn't feel like the right idea to build on top of that. And then we own about 8 acres up by San Salo.
How about the retreat?
That is.
Don't say, how about getting an estimate of what we're.
So just to be clear, there's no community interaction. And we're these board meetings, so. Let's set a precedent here, these are all good questions, but. So we get to the open discussion again, we should look into talking for ourselves. Yeah. That's like that.
So the little sketch up here, I didn't even put a gas line easement on there because it was unimportant to this conversation. The yellow is the water line easement that runs through our property, the black dotted line being the perimeter of the rec center property. As you can see from this area limit, a lot of it's pretty heavily treated too, so that's why there's not a lot of open space. The green line is that easement granted by WCID, so doing the court edition, which is in red, this is not to scale per se, but it is pretty close. I use the measuring tool with case CAD for making sure that the whole basketball court is 40 feet wide, so it's half of that is coming out. So in this edition would not impede or go over onto that water line easement. So no concerns there.
And I also want to stop us a future board did decide to build on that WCID to meet that. It doesn't stop you from building a pickleball. It's just, let's get it in with the community as we can.
Give options right now, so building, having it stay as it is, not meeting that or capitals or capital. Spending $47,000 roughly to research for a small work, $58,000 to stage. That's what we're reading this.
Yeah, I will say the basketball court currently is not in the best shape. And so I do think at minimum it needs resurfacing. Even if we choose to not expand, we could add lights, which I think would be huge, especially as we enter daylight savings time, because you come home at 5 o'clock, you can't play. And so this would really open up mornings and evenings, which I think would be really beneficial for people who work in team groups.
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's needed.
Yes, you get a whole bunch of others.
Yes.
Process.
It's already contemplated in the reserves, whether it's due this year or 2 years from now. You can absolutely use reserve dollars to do that.
Right, so we've got two scenarios on the table, the well or the unit for additional $12,500, like, correct?
Well, the lighting's in there. The lighting,
Yes, yeah, the electrical, I put it,
Oh, okay.
so it's part of it.
so if you go with 2 pickleball courts and the lighting, it's 80,810. If you go with 1 pickleball court or just resurfacing the basketball court, no pickleball, you're looking at 47,310.
The survey showed the demand for pickleball.
Yeah, so pickleball, we had over 1,000 people respond to the last survey, was in 2018. And the overwhelming majority chose pickleball. I forget that number in days.
There's still quite a bit of chatter.
Yeah, so I guess I'll make a motion.
Still more concerned about the reservation process. As a member of this bond, so. Would that be done online?
We can't, there are reservation systems we can implement online.
Involved.
Right. I mean,
Like on the basketballs.
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, when anytime you have some sort of amenity that is in high demand, and you have to do a reservation system, there will inevitably be people who are running. I know, shocker, right? But we, as long as we're doing it from an equitable and a fair standpoint, then it's not, I don't think it's a reason to not.
Another question. Basketball is rolled around and people requesting basketball. Will it be a priority during that season or?
I'm undetermined. We're not discussing, so most of the conversation has been around gas line, water line easements and those areas easements and costs and not too much really from that, no pun intended, from that all down the road too far.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that you get basketball, so you're gonna have, at least 5 to 10 kids out there, or more than that, maybe 10, one, 10, the other. Or football. During basketball, they might be getting.
Honestly, that's something that we did that, and that we could figure out the schedule
Okay,
and work around. I don't know if now is necessarily the time.
yeah, so we're just. Making a decision.
Yeah.
I separate probably that.
Possibly, or honestly, we build another multi for this month, right? Like, this is why you gave us the purpose. This is becoming very common, like YMCA has definitely where pickleball is set out on an outdoor. And it is pickleball work, and there's tons of people that show up to rotate in and out. So I envision we're gonna do something similar to that. But at least we have an option. Yeah.
Well, I just got a message from so somebody was going to that. Just a little off the engineers. It's $2,000.
So I did reach out to UCIE, and they essentially told us no.
Right.
But so 2 is different than 1, so.
Yeah.
But I will say I did talk to the president, and I did talk to their person, and she said she might talk to WCA and that.
Just to clarify, just for knowledge, you're asking the same questions. This is basketball, not that's correct.
Correct, yeah.
Here you go, spot.
There was something involved in this last year.
The gas line is like right there. Yeah. I guess I don't know. Yeah. Here. I met with last.
Yeah, we have.
There's,
Well, we don't have it.
there's not a slab, there's, what do we have, which is site survey.
We have a survey that, for this commission, for the easement. And then we have where Austin Hill Court overlaid where they were gonna finish. Yeah, and when I came up last year, I met with my, I was also in school court to see parking, and that's when the gas line was on anything, but he found like the in or whatever it is that indicates it. Yes, good thing with the flags, and then it was also faded from when 811 came out and marked all of it. Was like maybe 18 months ago, but it's like right here. The way the other block is gonna be was. Oh, yeah.
The other stack out here, yeah.
Yes, there was one here and one here, there's two.
I'm just throwing some there that are really finding out that costs and possibility of relocating. Relocating the line.
Well, the gas line was extremely old, they really asked for it.
I thought worse than engineering. Yeah, no, yeah.
But that was a question, because I'm gonna ask. Alright, so I think,
I actually plan for this.
yeah, so financially, we have over $200,000 to start, we review, full sum, capital, sorry. Capital, review, full sum from the reserves, then replacing the basketball court is part of the reserve study. So amount is full amount, out of capital.
So I feel like this never been. So we're sitting it.
The lights, I think, are being so.
The lights, I think,
It looks like it's
So that's home.
You have to go with the more expensive than two projects, $80,000 price tag. That takes $80,000 out of our $264,000 capital. To be able to offset that. $52,000 in reserve.
I mean, we be able to do that.
So we would almost certainly keep your capital pretty above.
Yes, sir, you making it?
I am, I learned that we approved the option two, basketball.
Second.
All right, any discussion? I just want to say huge shout out to Jamie and Jennifer because they started this process. I'm so glad y'all are here just to get finished. Any discussion first? No. All right, then all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the motion carries with rural powered Bobby, myself, Fred, and Trish voting in favor, and we have Pete voting no. Okay, perfect. I almost said abstaining, but I was like, that is so wrong. Wow, that was amazing. Thank you. Good job, you two starting it. All right, next we are on to our AOC variance request. So we have an AOC variance request in which the owner requests to present in the open session of the board meeting. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, please come up and feel free to address the board.
Laughing. Yeah, thank you. So I'm Joe Thompson. This is my wife, Kelly Thompson. We're owners of 11435 Mason Verde in the Pinnacle, and thank you all for the opportunity to do this. I think water conservation right now is on the tip of the spear right now and on everybody's mind. It's the one thing that can unite us or divide us, as we all saw this week with the pink slips on people's front door from WCID. And so, you know, there's a lot of focus around this. And so I think this is a great opportunity to discuss the declination of our application to install drought-resistant landscaping in our front yard. So a little bit of the genesis of how we got here today was been here 4 years. In those 4 years, we've had 3 different Bermuda lawns, they all died. Disease-ridden, didn't have enough water. We hired True Green for a year and a half, the great company that helped us lawn. They fired us. They were like, there's nothing you can do. On this massive slope, a bed of limestone, there's no shade. Like he's like, unless you water this thing all the time, there's just no way that you can maintain any sort of lawn. I would apologize to my neighbors. I am so sorry. This yard is so embarrassing. We live next to that big green belt, so anything that's in there just blows, and it was a disaster. And so, like the second time we replaced or put new Bermuda in, we noticed there was another property in Belterra that has artificial turf in their front yard. I thought it was awesome. And somebody informed us there was a law in 2013 that Texas was encouraging drought-resistant landscaping. So we're like, oh, this is awesome. So we got a quote. We're like, this is too expensive. We can't afford to do this. Let's go for the Bermuda lawn. Well, guess what? We spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on water, fertilizer, True Green, obviously new grass, and guess what? It died. So this year we're like, we cannot do this again. Like this, it's the definition of insanity to do the same thing over and over, expect different results. So we got another quote, and still very, very expensive. We're like, okay, well, the water will save on, the money will save on that. You know, we kind of just did the math like, let's go for it. So we put together and we're going to apply for approval with the HOA. This is where there was a situation in our family where my wife had a death in the family that required her to leave and go to East Texas, and she had to relocate her mother, who has dementia, Alzheimer's, from East Texas to Ledgestone. She's actually in this month's stroll. So if you see stroll, you'll see her in there. So we had a death in the family, you know, and sell her house and call, you know, it's a mess. So it was one of these where typically she does our approvals. But if you look in the records, you'll see all the approvals we've ever done. She's done them. I thought she did it. She thought I did it. So we did it. We did this project. I will own that. That's my responsibility. That's not the way you do business. You don't just do a project without HOA approval. I will own that. However, we're here. And so the moment we got the letter that, hey, you need approval, we almost got divorced. It was like, I thought you, no. I was like, well, babe, don't worry. Like, it's already in the neighborhood. They don't approve it.
The wife is always right.
The wife is always right. So we applied and we were shocked when we got declined. We're like, crap, we got declined. So within an hour of receiving the declination via email, I did respond back saying I'd like to have an open hearing to discuss this importance of this. And we didn't hear anything for 3 months. So we thought maybe there's, I don't know, we forgot about it. So then until I got another email 2 weeks ago and a certified letter in the mail saying, hey, Bozo, you're ignoring our request. I was like, whoa.
We usually use that term.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. I was like, we actually, no, we did the right thing. And so, however, as a homeowner who's trying to conserve water and feels like they did the right thing, anytime you get a certified letter in the mail, it feels like it's a personal attack. I'm being asked to, you're doing your jobs, but I'm being asked to rip out a beautiful lawn and put more Bermuda that's going to die and waste water. I took it very seriously. I'm not an attorney. You know, I read these guidelines, I read bylaws, but when I'm being asked to do that, I did seek legal counsel. So I do have an attorney opinion letter that has reviewed the bylaws and feels like I am in my right to install water conserving artificial grass in my front yard. And I have that today and I'll share it with you, but I'll just kind of go through a brief summary of it. Is that currently in the xeriscaping policy, there is no ban against artificial grass in the front yard. There's nothing in there that says you cannot do front or side yards. But in my declination, that was the only thing that was referenced. And what it was referencing was a bylaw from 2003, the initial bylaws from Belterra, that says the front and side yards must have 1 of 4 approved grasses. Well, that's 2003, which precedes by 10 years state law. So I'll read this verbatim state law that was passed in September 1st of 2013, section 202007. A property owners association may not include or enforce a provision in a dedicatory instrument that prohibits or restricts a property owner from using drought-resistant landscaping or water-conserving natural turf. So that's the letter of the law in 13. So what was given to me was a bylaw from 03, which precedes that. Interesting enough, in that same section, it says any provision that violates the subsection is void. So what was referenced to me is the 2003, which precedes the law in 13. Interesting enough, that same, by the same law that was passed, it did mention that an HOA it says this section does not prohibit a property owners association from regulating the installation of use of gravel, rock, or cacti. It says you can regulate that, and believe it or not, in our zero setting policy, it says your front and backyard can contain no more than 30% of gravel, rock, or cacti. So the state says you can do that, and you did it, but there was no mention, not you, sorry, that's not person, it's person. HOA says you cannot do that, but nothing about artificial turf, which is obviously drought resistant. Additionally, there is something in my denial that included a reference to drought resistant landscaping must be compatible with the neighborhood, the aesthetics, right? And so, has anybody here seen my yard, by the way? Yes. Does anybody here feel it's aesthetically pleasing? So interestingly enough, it was referenced in there. It didn't say it was not aesthetically compatible. It just referenced the law or the bylaw. In Texas law, I love Texas. Texas law says a property owners association may not unreasonably deny or withhold approval of a proposed installation of drought resistant landscaping or water conserving natural turf, or unreasonably determine that the proposed installation is aesthetically incompatible with other landscaping in the subdivision. I love that piece of that. Additionally, there was there's my attorney opinion letter, there's the property address that has turf in the front and side yards. That's been there for about 3 years. That's referenced in this letter as well. Lastly, there was in the denial, it was mentioning there was no gravel allowed in planter beds. That's actually been there since we moved in. The rock we added was part of the drainage, that's part of the turf. And so I just walked like a half-mile loop, and there's 40 houses in my neighborhood or in the circle that have the exact same rock and gravel. So I'm like, it's kind of part of the neighborhood. Here we are today is that this is something that can unite us or divide us, is this whole water topic. This is not going to get any better. We're in the hottest summer on record. It's the biggest drought we've had. There's more straws going in the ground. There's more neighborhoods coming in. This is a universal issue. And as a board, they have the unique opportunity to say, you know what, we can have Belterra as the forefront, as the leader in water conservation through drought resistant landscaping. It ain't getting better. It could get worse. I have a copy of my last 2 water bills from June, July. Get this. So this was installed in May. In June, our water usage was 50% below the average in WCID2. We live on a 3rd acre. I've got 3 teenagers with sleepovers all the time. So think about that. We were 50% below the average. In July, we're 30% below the average. So we have a unique ability to say, hey, this works. It creates curb appeal. It prevents disease, rot. My neighbor, I go out there, I'm pride in the front yard. Neighbors come by, man, I love your yard. I'm like, it's about time. Because the last 3 years, people are like, man, your yard is horrible. It's embarrassing. So I just think this is true. This is true. So we have the opportunity to say, you know what, this is going to be better. I came home from the gym last month. I was thirsty. It was in the morning. I turned the spout on. There was no water. Remember this day? No water. I was like, oh, it must have been a water main break or somebody, some disaster at the water processing plant. The explanation that I got in writing was too many people were watering their yards last night. Now, I said it out loud to myself. I said, I don't have any water because people were watering their yards last night. And my intelligence level just dropped like to the floor. So I encourage you when you drive home tonight and you're in the car by yourself, say, I couldn't drink because we need to water our yards. So with that, I would appreciate a reconsideration to approve our project and to actually further encourage drought resistant landscaping. Texas wants it. Central Texas needs it. It's not getting any better. All these people are here and to support me because they all feel like they're tired of $800 water bills and dead grass too. So, yes.
What is the maintenance of the turf grass, and how often do you have to water it? Because you have to keep,
I don't want it
you
once.
don't water it at all, so it doesn't like crack or shift if you don't keep the ground underneath it wet.
The expense of it isn't the turf, it's the preparation. They put 4 layers of this stuff underneath it. So that you don't have that. I believe there's a turf installer in the room. They make it speak more professionally about it than I can.
He did not install our turf.
Yes, yes.
We thought, hey, it's our light company, like Ellis,
So there was, it's the turf and the guy that helped install it, it's right here on 290, right outside Belterra as you're going past the HEB, there's the big, I don't,
so drainage wise, maybe you can tell us, I mean, I know you have to have good drainage to be able to
Yeah.
install it, period. Gotta be either sand based or some other kind of base. You have rubber pellets in it, and that's silicon sand. What is sand?
Silicon sand?
Silicon sand?
Is it the black seed?
no,
No, it's rubber.
no, and
Playing fields.
Yeah, but
yeah, this is, all I do is I just blow off any kind of leaves that blow on, just blow it off and that's it.
so honestly, I'm kind of glad you're like, we've talked quite a bit about zero escaping, how we would like to update our policy. The issue is that you can tell we have a ton that we already do, and we don't always have the ability to get to everything we would like to on our list. How do you feel about volunteering to work on zero escaping? I'm happy to just go ahead and.
Just, hey,
And just-
Catherine, you sign me up. Sign me up.
Wonderful.
As far as other, I guess, like you can have, like, I know what the ordinary is, cover rocks.
So, no, so I will say, there is a little bit of a misconception that you see your neighbor have it, it must be okay. Believe it or not, it happens, maybe husbands and wives don't communicate, or people don't realize that they do need to submit. So it is not it's not an assurance that just because you see it, it's okay. Because that person's probably getting our love notes too. But. No. So yes, you're right with the state law that we're definitely moving more toward conservation. It becomes a definition, and it depends on what attorney you speak to. Our attorney may say, well, that says landscaping and plants, and it specifically mentions turf, natural turf. This is not natural turf. So I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying, yes, this is the subject. It is a hot topic. I've been doing this for quite a few years, and over the past, Sarah, what, 5, 6, 7 years, it's really become the documents were silent because our official turf, 20 years ago wasn't the thing. So yes, it doesn't mention it. And the board has talked about updating the zero escaping policy, and that is a consideration. Do we allow artificial turf? It's allowed in back yards right now. But it has not historically been allowed in front yards, hence why you got a letter from the
Where does it say it's allowed in the backyard?
I can't quote that chapter and verse for you, but I do know that the ANC has approved backyard. So there's a historical precedent there, but they have not approved the front yard. So that's where, to your point, there should be something, but that's why it's silent, is because it wasn't something popular years ago. And there has been an allowance for zero escaping, and it does allow 30%. So there's a question of, should we allow more zero escaping? I've been in Phoenix for 16 years.
Yeah.
Like I get
Yeah,
it.
there's neighborhoods out there that have no water at all. Right? So, this is a picture of my home, so to point out, you see that dark brown strip by the curb? That's the new grass we installed with this project.
Yeah.
And we watered the heck out of it.
Yeah.
We don't, obviously, I don't think we own that as a homeowners, we don't own that.
It's all the way up to the street.
Well, my survey goes to the sidewalk, so I thought I just had.
You have a sidewalk, you have an easement for the sidewalk, but your property goes all the way to the street.
Yeah. So that's why that,
So if it does get approved.
oh, okay.
To make it look all consistent.
Yeah, but I do want to recognize
No, but it's not so, we have to in the office, we have to follow the process. So the process is Darla drives in, she sees books that, is not approved. As I mentioned before, smart beds, the architecturals and violations are all in the same system, so she can see it right there. We send a violation letter, it's books, and I didn't realize, so you submit, and then you get a denial. We do have to follow this process. So coming to the board is your next step for a variance request. So yeah, I mean, I think we're dealing with a bigger issue rather than just your particular home. I think that maybe Steve did for the board here, that there was an agreement that there's something bigger that needs to be done.
This has been an issue. This is like one of the first things that I mentioned, I think, when I joined the board, because variety is on the wall, right? I mean, whether you believe in climate change or not, I do. And this summer is kind of evidence of that. Things are only gonna get worse. This has been an unprecedented summer. I was born and raised here. Never experienced anything like this. Water is a precious resource that's only gonna get,
Diminished.
well, drastically diminished, and, I mean, I was just saying, and it's not a joke, I think eventually it's gonna be so serious that I think I can see wars being fought over this, because, a lot of people are gonna die because lakes are drying up, water bodies. So yards, as we know them, are gonna be a thing of the past.
Yeah, right.
So
Exactly.
I think it's gonna be incumbent upon us and probably all associations to provide like governing documents, fill out for zero spacing.
Before it's too late.
That I think we're all in agreement with.
Mhm.
I think here it was just, the procedures weren't followed,
Correct.
there's some other issues. But we're all in agreement as far as zero spacing and drought resistant bonds, because we have to do that. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that people can repaint their house, but it doesn't mean you can repaint your house any color. We don't want purple. Okay.
Yeah. You don't want Boise State blue turf in your front yard, right? Yeah.
Property owners, right? And sometimes that can be a little bit subjective, but we have to establish a set of guidelines. So yes, you can have xeriscaping, but you have to use X, Y, and Z materials.
Yeah, most neighbors do that.
The whole point of the HOA is to preserve the values of the community. So that's what we're trying to do, not to be difficult and,
No, it's,
so
and I do want to say, I'm on 2 volunteer boards myself. It's a thankless freaking job.
it is.
Okay, so I thank y'all for what you're doing. Without an HOA, it's the Wild West. Okay, so, I just want to make sure I was prepared because this is near and dear to my heart. So don't feel like I was attacking you personally. This is obviously an important issue to me
It's
because,
your property.
but, and you see yards that are luscious and their sprinklers are going in a stage 3 in the middle of the day and you're like, I'm not gonna be the guy to rat my neighbors out, but that.
Well, I think it's a green yard. All my grass is dead. So I know they're watering.
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Well, I used to feel the front lawn feels the pain. I feel it.
So from my experience on the board with variance requests, I don't feel comfortable just outright saying yes, but I also don't feel comfortable outright saying no. I think this is something that we want to work on. We have a group of people here who really care about it. So I think we don't actively find, we stop sending the letters. We work as a board, maybe bring some volunteers to update our zero spacing policy. And so that's kind of my vision for this movie.
I would serve on that committee to do it.
And so that can even pick up, particularly one off. Would you be interested, I don't know if this is okay with the board, but sending around a piece of paper, whoever is interested in working on a zero spacing policy with their name and email address, and we get started on.
And don't be afraid, because a few of my colleagues have already updated their community zero spacing policy, so I already have some really great templates, they're not starting from scratch.
Yeah.
That helps.
It does.
So, yeah, it is, but there's something brought up, we don't want red turf here, and we don't want it here, so it needs to be everything.
That's what would go into the update of the policy, because the other concern, that's 20 years ago, somebody wanted to put in our Does that mean they just run down and think, oh, it's
Get
go
the
off the
sheet.
shelf? That is not. Establishing some mechanisms and,
Excuse me.
Yeah, should not miss the meeting of right across the thing, but we do need to continue with the first meeting. Okay.
yes, so, yes, as far as putting in, some, quality standards for what that looks like, so to prevent people from just going and doing it themselves and pulling out a.
Key signature.
Yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
And I agree with that, so we don't want to, or.
Yeah.
Grass.
So we can definitely work on that, so,
See that?
that motion then to basically, halt further. So we will table the decision on the variance and halt all,
Take any action.
yeah,
Injunction.
enforcement, thank you, Sarah. Enforcement procedures until this can, so I don't know.
I'm so moved. Anybody second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
So, we would amend that motion with the time frame.
Especially if it's calendar year. We need to still remove that amendment.
You can say you amended to add the time frame.
I amend it to include the time frame of within this calendar year. And there's like that. All right, Bob, second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously.
Be extremely clear to the record, for anyone who's present, listening, that this is not a revision of the current policy, and this is not free reign for anybody in the neighborhood to install artificial turf. This merely starts a discussion.
Our grass that are dying right now.
You're not getting any violation letters for dead grass.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to add or we?
That was it. Thank you.
Wonderful,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank
So much. All right, so.
Did everybody sign up for the ones to be over there as well?
Because the current management agreement in place for solar, it does not include an environment insurance provision. CCSD is requesting the board sign an amendment in insurance provision acknowledging this addition. So that addition was sent out to the board. And would anybody like to make a motion on that? All right, any discussion? All right, I guess I'll have a discussion point, so let me pull it up, everyone. So I'm not wild about this in the way that it's worded. I'm okay signing a different version, but not necessarily this version. So, the state doesn't require us to have this insurance. Our CCNRs don't require us to have this insurance. This insurance is brand new, it's environmental insurance to protect us if somebody comes in here and hails mold filled air and has a black on from it. And it's, so the wording in here essentially says, as long as we have this contract, we will have this insurance. And so it binds us to that. And I don't necessarily love creating that higher standard with insurance that we don't know if it actually pays out. 2 years from now, it might feel pretty bogus, and we might want to change it. But then we have to ask the CMC's approval to change it and sign a new letter and drop the insurance. And so.
No, that's
Okay.
not exactly correct.
Okay.
There's two agendas, there's two options, and as people said earlier, hey, 20 years ago, we didn't have this water issue. Well, 5 to 10 years ago, we didn't have all of the environmental issues we're having today. And I would, Patricia, actually, climate change based, you're seeing increased, claims as an industry, not necessarily CPUC, but as an industry with people contracting, legionellas through, pools that has been specifically excluded from most general liability policies. The only policy that will cover, or only policy that will cover that infection is environmental. You can Google Legionella cases. There have been several out of Houston just this year, people have died. And so the issue is that when the original CPC contract was drafted, this didn't exist. So this is something new, correct? We are recommending our communities get it, but you don't have to. And there's 2 addendums, there's a yes addendum and a no addendum. If you choose to obtain insurance, great, that's the yes addendum. If you choose not to get it, then there's a no addendum. If you choose to drop it, then you would sign a no addendum.
So we've already contracted and have insurance, correct? Correct. So we already have insurance in place.
Yes.
All this is doing is telling y'all that we have y'all listed as insurance and that, so if we were suing that policy protects.
Yes, as in all the other policies.
So, and then I don't feel comfortable signing something saying that we will keep it till the end of the contract. I mean, I'm comfortable signing something that says we have this insurance currently. CCMC is listed on the insurance and will be protected by it. But I don't like setting up a higher standard for ourselves that we have to keep it under the contract.
I understand what you're saying, but the addendum is just as of the life of this agreement. If it's dropped, then you would sign the no addendum. If the options are a yes addendum and a no addendum, that's from the corporate attorney and it's company wide across 12 states. So I know you're interpreting it as binding you to it. It doesn't bind you to it. It just means that you, yes, you have an insurance as long as you have that. And that addendum is the current addendum. Then you will get individual insured. If you choose to drop coverage, well, that addendum is null and void, you no longer have coverage. So it would just be then a no addendum, which then indemnifies us. Because you choose not to take coverage.
So one of my big concerns is let's say, and maybe this is a big life situation, but I work in hospitals where if you set a higher standard for yourself, you were held to that higher standard, not a state standard, your standard. So if somebody's sued and you met a state standard but not your own, then you were in big trouble. Still, and so I don't want to create a situation where we adopt this, we sign it, and then a future board's like, look, they have all these exclusions and these insurances, this one's bogus, they don't ever pay out, so we're gonna drop it. Would a future board then going from a higher standard, transferring to the lower standard, have any legal liability?
Residents can make that argument. That happens to us, just watch, because they're the ones who are not being protected. CCMC is not really going to care.
Well, then, yeah, they'll sign the yes or they'll sign the no, that's
the case regardless. If you have insurance or not, if you don't have the insurance, if somebody dies in somebody's gonna sue.
Well, in the governing documents, your governing documents, your CCNRs that spell out what insurance you're required to have would prevail in any argument here, not agreement with your management company. The governing documents will prevail in a suit.
correct. I would also say that hospitals are highly regulated, but there's no regulatory authority in Texas for HOAs. We're a property rights state. And for example, the Texas Property Owners Association Act 209, the actual title of it is the Property Owners Protection Act. All the state laws in Texas for HOAs are in place to protect owners and their personal property rights from the association.
I think I'm not gonna protect the association from being liable for it. Any other further discussion on that?
But at the end of the day, I think we are protecting the community by getting insurance.
So this isn't June, you get the insurance.
No, I
So we are not this year. This is
I
just we're gonna get them right now.
yeah.
Let's see, all in favor, say aye. Alright, any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Let's see, thank y'all for that explanation. That hospital background's got me. Let's see, there has been interest in the community to enhance the holiday lighting. Management requested two. Thank you. New laws and amendments to existing laws resulting from the 80th Texas legislative session necessitated changes to Belterra's collection policy and enforcement and fine policy. House Bill 614 requires an association update language regarding fine type, schedule of fines, and filing and posting requirements. House Bill 886 requires that an association provide 3 additional notice requirements and a 90-day waiting period prior to the lien filing. The proposed policy updates ensure Belterra is in compliance with these new amended laws. May I have a motion to adopt the revised collection policy and enforcement and fine policy as prepared by the legal counsel and presented? All right, may I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Now we're on to the holiday lighting. There has been interest in the community to enhance the holiday lighting. Management has requested 2 proposals from the holiday lighting company we've used for the past several years. One is similar to what we've done in the past, includes wrapping the trees of the main entrance in twinkle lights. So we have 2 different proposals that you can see here.
I think some of the, information. Proposal 1 would be the same display as 2022. Proposal 2 excludes the garland wrapped Belterra Drive light poles because there were some comments about it just wasn't, didn't seem like it was worth the money.
They don't get it.
They don't have lighting, exactly. And adds lighting along the flower bed edges and green wreaths were closed on short pillars down to 90, just a couple of them, not just like pretty in the picture there. Holiday Expressions also provided an option to like the rec center sign. They provided a rough quote for wrapping those trees, but it's cost prohibitive at the main entrance. That was my dream, to have an entrance all twinkle light trees. And, but to do that, all of the great myrtles that are there at the entrance, it would be an additional $5,500. Yeah, so not the budget this year, but maybe next year. So proposal 1, same as last year, $10,946.42. Proposal 2. Is to enhance the entry monuments, like it's pictured up here with the ground lights and then some of the little first committees there. That's a technical term for committees. $11,342.09. Or proposal 3, which adds in rec center sign as well for $11,845.25. The budgeted amount for holiday lighting / decorations for this year, 2023, is $12,000. I would recommend going with 3. But number 3.
So number 3, was something we talked about because in the past we haven't done the Belterra sign right here. And so that would be nice to be able to have the Belterra sign over here and the same as the entrance.
Why does that seem like so much for that? Because there's not a lot of lights and it doesn't seem like.
It's a lot of labor.
It's not much labor.
You know,
Did we ever hold this out to multiple?
I don't know the last time it was done, but yes, we can. But this, it would need to, I do not know. Sarah, do you know? How was the last time they had a different lighting company?
No, but that's within range of what I've seen. I think they will come out and troubleshoot it too. Usually they don't charge if they do that. Some of
That's the too, it's all of this.
if there's any kind of moisture, little GFCIs can pop, they'll come out and they'll take care of it. I think also it probably has to do with the rate of insurance that they have to pay for their workers, like on roofs. I do know that there has been a death before. In my career, yeah.
And a lot of those companies that come, or the people that come into the houses, shall carry the proper insurance that we need for
It's just, yeah, no.
that company. It's not a guy, it's a company called Holiday Expressions.
What's the time of this will be at?
Not determined yet. I have to find out what their schedule is are, which it seems weird, it's 100 and some degrees outside, we're talking about holiday lights, but this is the time of year we can make. So
Over the year, oh, yeah. Is there any play or is there any, do we all have a time? Do we get a couple of other things?
I can try, yeah, I don't have to be real fast on it, but yeah, you know,
I think it's worth looking into.
I can get you some other names. This is something you can bring on email too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's.
we all. So it's just the nutty ground and the entrance.
I think that would be nice, if we would like to share.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's so this, so considering going.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that company Shine do residential stuff like this? I know residential.
Commercial, yeah. I don't know, I'll look into it though. So no action.
And look at what it would cost to do the other. Like all three, there's really interesting from Belterra, like you need next time or.
Yeah.
None of your questions.
For your mention, yeah.
Alright.
We have a special meeting to do online.
All right, well, thank you all so much for the thoughts on that. We'll move on and researching the motivates for the retreat open space. Management discovered this area not to be included in the landscaping maintenance contract, despite the area being mowed periodically for several years, according to some of the adjacent residents. Management confirmed with WCOE2 and MOC that this area is not in their landscape maintenance contract and must be added to ours. With the concerns surrounding fire hazards, management recommends engaging land care from a one-time mow of this open space to reduce the fire risk at a cost of $6,165.92. In addition, maintenance of the baseball field is not in the manager's contract. As with the retreat, land care will perform the necessary repairs and maintenance for $6,103.14. Both items will be incorporated for the 2024 landscape budget for ongoing maintenance. So the land here got pretty expensive. When was the last time we?
We don't even know how long it's been. Been at least 3 years. No, it's not been since.
So is this
COVID.
So-
I don't have not since.
what do you ask you?
Yeah, it seems nice to me.
Yeah, this isn't happening.
I was gonna say, you could buy two.
It is like 7.5 acres.
I know, it would be a nice relaxing. Let's see. Already talking about.
Both are kind of currently, we cover the retreat and. So, I don't know, I'm honestly feeling the same way like we did about holiday, I think we should get for this, but I don't know.
Yeah, let's regroup on their situation and decide how it's.
So,
Mowing all of it or just mowing like a difference, like a.
No, it's mowing with it.
Yeah, so the issue right now though is, it hasn't been mowed in a long time, so the co-residents, WCA2 went after, they cleared out all the tree limbs and stuff, and that grass is real tall. That's what Jim was talking about, and so they're nervous about fire hazards, they want that mowed pretty quickly, just as what's going on.
so regardless of soliciting new bids for land, escaping in general, we need to get this mowed.
Yeah, so I'm almost like, we get it mowed for the Or could we bid it out? Could we bid out just so let's do that?
Yes, yes, the only thing I'm funny about making sure we use the same one is like plant installation because of the warranty and the maintenance of it, but yes, we can have somebody else who do that.
Okay.
Reach out to, vendors, not like, the land care right now, land care is more like manicuring, but more like a guy on a tractor with a shredder, like land clearing type vendors.
Probably.
Yeah. Then landscapers and.
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay, so it sounds like we are going to try to bid that out maybe to somebody who deals more in, the massively tall grass.
This would be as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then. Like that comes into this, so what about the baseball field?
No, I just was curious the urgency of that, without knowing what the conversation was gonna be about, obviously the entire people there, I assumed they were here to advocate for baseball repairs. I don't know.
There are some, down on the baselines, there are some ruts that kind of. Added whatever, do cracking with this wear, but this would include, they would replace like the whole day, like the base, it's hard to word. Yeah, thank you, I just want the date and the bases and everything, so they're gonna replace all of that stuff and drag it, compact back all the existing areas, take all the weeds out, there's a lot of weeds that have grown in over there, so that's kind of the general scope of bringing it back up to snuff. And then ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, so I would suggest we sit on that, food as well.
Potentially look at bidding out, I know I'm telling that even work on this, but we look at bidding out when here, we need to build out a better RFP prior to doing that, or the
So I think that. That should be very well defined, and when we get a contract, the lands and building the what's the mowing, the maintenance and everything is. I believe. Right, it's pretty clear, wasn't it? Look at that. I think that would be fairly easy to get baseline for us, and obviously the level of service and the amount of care they spend in the operation is. Hard to tell until they actually do it, but from what, we should have that information.
The issue we may run into, and this we can get into more, is the more boutique kind of service that they do over in Wellington in the code. They do, there's a lot of things that happen over there that just go straight through Lucas, and so it'd be hard to quantify some of those.
So it's usually to keep them at Wellington and Cove, and then we find someone else to do, because I know Google is very happy with land care, so I don't want to risk pulling that out and upsetting them, but we can keep them there for sure, but then out the rest.
Yeah, because they're separate, he has them as separate contracts.
Any else thoughts on that as a board?
The fine option on the table. Let's get it, let's look at how they all shake it out. And decide, and you can ask the code and Wellington how they feel, if they realize they're paying a significant premium to keep land care, and they can make that decision.
And
Or
then
they don't do that.
we could even get those quotes as well. Awesome. Great, so that's table, we don't need to make a motion to get, okay. All right, well, the next item is also land. Given that several plants died due in December 2022 and February 2023 freezes, land care has provided a quote for fall plantings around the Rexton. Initially, land care provided a spring planting quote. However, we were concerned about the types of planting and their ability to survive and bounce back. We did some of the varieties would not last in the freeze. So land care management reviewed the plant material driving around the rec center to develop this quote. May I have a motion to approve the proposal from land care to install plants around the rec center this fall for $7,950 and 28 cents paid operating.
What are the drought resistant, freeze resistant plants that are
I represent several of these on this, being resistant, resistant to young, and candle and rosemary.
I guess part of what I'm asking is, you know, I guess they would probably be native and drought resistant, but then, you know, some of the things that are drought resistant. Might be also susceptible to freezing because, you know, we can have 180-degree weather or 50, you know, who knows these days. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
It's going to be happening tomorrow. This is just in preparation because the time.
To find the fall. Well, October, yeah.
How much do we need is there?
I mean, look around, it's not terrible. I mean, there are some bare spots because the plants just died and they had to be pulled out.
If we were to table this until spring, we'd be looking at an exponential increase in the amount of plants that we would need to be replacing.
Just depends on the winter.
So I was bidding, so. The plants receive a warranty of a year from the person who puts them in, as long as they're the person who continues to take care of them. So to me, it doesn't make sense to pay to put them in if we are putting out bids for other land here, because if we go with someone else, then this warranty is void. So I almost feel like we should table this one until we know what landscaping company we are going to be doing.
I agree.
Especially given the fact that you're looking at plants that are gonna be a lot of aggressive.
Yeah.
And potentially the deer is getting gone, maybe we will zero state for term precedent. All right, well, the co-committee chair, thank you all so much for the good conversation on this. I was going to be the co-committee chair, Jim Maziak, and community manager, Marcia Colby.
You did, thank you.
Have created a Belterra responsibility matrix to aid in clarifying the ownership maintenance complexity in the community. And so we received that in an email. Is this the Belterra? Not really.
I can.
Okay, so, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the Belterra responsibility matrix as proposed?
It's very hard.
So my first one is it's not like, there might be some things that are filled in later as well, like this is, or is it 100% complete?
It can definitely be an, you know, an evolving document. It's a living and breathing document because of, you know, things, you know, different vendors up here. I think Jim was just trying to kind of create a document that residents could look at and say, well, who does that? You know, whose responsibility is it and what do they do with that?
So in approving this, it would be approving this version, understanding it can be updated as needed in the future. And this would allow us to be posted to the developer community website for people to access it. Correct. Okay.
You know, I think
Yeah, there'd be a revision date, so it'd be approved. It's approved today, you put that in, then if it's gonna be revised, you do that, what's revised and be posted. So yeah, as to Jamie's law committee, you give it to the resident because they're Belterra proper assets listed as well as the code, so you give it to the code as well. So yeah, just because people are confused here, there's too many entities involved.
So to do this, we do stuff a lot, so I'll apologize in advance. But I struggle with what it means to approve this, right? This is writing down the facts. So we're approving the editorial format of the document. There's no new determination who's responsible for anything here. So I want to separate the conversation of, is this a pretty document that we think is useful, should be posted in some format, which is completely divorced from the contents, which are statements of fact to the moment in time. And they're two different things. And so when I get something like this to approve, I have no right to approve the content, because the content is what it is. I can say, what, it could be blue better instead of a gray, but like, these motions feel weird to me, so I'd be like, yeah, it's fine, great, we'll do whatever you want, but I don't want to vote because it's not a thing to vote on.
But
It's not an action.
Do we need a motion to post it to the website, or can you choose to post it to the website?
the spirit of my bringing it before the board was to bring back the like consensus that, yes, this is a tool we would like to present to the community as, you know, something that can be utilized for them to understand the complexities that Belterra. We didn't want to just post something and then you guys go, what is this? Who authorized posting this? So it's just making sure that the board is on board with it.
Yeah, and Pete, you're right, but the problem is that information, is not in one place.
Oh, I agree.
And you can't find it.
Hundred percent agree with
Yeah, so, yeah,
all elements of it, it's just
I mean, Marcia
the
could make,
weirdness of.
There's not really anything about
Yeah.
it. If the information is accurate, it should be disseminated, but it doesn't require a vote.
So disseminate without votes is kind of our,
It is fine with it.
yeah, alright, well, thanks for letting us know this day, and for creating it, Jen and Marcia. Appreciate it.
sure.
Alright, next. The current gym hours are 5 AM to 11 PM. However, there are old signs outside of the rec center that states that the rec center closes at 10:30 PM. Recently, this caused an issue for a resident when the constable stopped them when leaving the rec center after 10:30 PM. Given that the signage must be modified, given the signage must be modified, the question of the gym hours was brought up. So, I guess.
It's like, here, I'm sure it's $6,000.
You know, signage outside the door with a gym for the hours, I made that with the cricket, because it was $25 to buy the little Blunda and I see that.
So updating signage to reflect the fact that it is today is a year's ago outside item.
Well,
But the question was whether or not, somebody brought up, if it should be expand the gym hours.
yeah, so essentially, this is what happened. My neighbor approached me as I was leaving my house and was like, hey, I have some interesting encounter. And he said he was leaving the rec center or leaving the gym and the constable stopped him and said, hey, you're trespassing, you can't be here. And the resident was like, no, I can't be here, it doesn't close till 11. And the constable was like, no, look at the sign, it says 10:30, points to 11 outside. Well, then the resident's like, come on inside with me, scans the key fob, goes inside, shows them the 11 inside and inside. The resident would prefer to actually be able to work out till midnight. He would like to see the hours expanded. And so that's kind of what was brought to me. And so when confronted these county sheriff constable, the constable requested that he bring it before the board so that way we can make our signage the same, whatever we choose to make it.
Yeah, question here, did you ask the constables to enforce this plan?
So
At some point in the past, it had to have been, otherwise he wouldn't have any knowledge of what the enforceable plan was.
yeah, that's odd. That's a good point.
Yeah, so for a constable to. If he wasn't outside of his car reading the sign, and the. Short answer is no, since it's private property, it's not enforceable by a public safety entity unless they're service. So at some point in the past, the constable's office had to have been moved in and asked to respond to the area or stop people in the rec center when they saw patrols. So this would be a two-part thing. If we decided to change the times, we would also have to go to the constable's office at the time change so that this, we can avoid that.
True.
What are the hours required by the janitorial service to do what they need to do on a,
They're usually here at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
but they need some window.
They're usually gone
Makes sense,
by,
right?
yeah, they're gone before the gym opens at 5 AM.
But they would try to midnight would be appropriate. Is there any downside to extending the gym hours?
I was thinking of making it 24/7, a lot of gyms have gone that way, and it's yeah, I didn't think about the janitorial, I would be open to making janitorial for midnight, and that gives the janitorial through 4-hour window. And residents who work earlier, maybe shift work, could get in there earlier.
How often is the janitorial service here?
They are here 3 days a week, right now, 4 days a week right now.
Well, you really have to go down by, that I was looking at this.
Just because people don't typically like to work out with a person mopping next to them.
It's hard to clean when there's people in the gym.
Yeah, I can see the expectation of the resident to ask the janitors to work around them, the expectation of janitors that they can do their job appropriately.
How did you 24 hours you do it then? I guess-
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Now, something to keep in mind is if you do make the gym 24 hours, then that vestibule is open 24 hours. And you're opening yourself up to possibly some theft, because there are some assets in there, not expensive assets, but the coffee machine and some things like that, so. Okay, just food for thought.
So I haven't been here late much. Is that always open or does it shut at 5 and you have to keep on in after 5 p.m.?
No, after 11. Well, after 11, the door's locked. You can't get in, period. We're not supposed to admit.
Is there a way to make it where it has to keep on access after like 8 p.m.?
Yeah.
I like that.
Because I even like that without, not even worrying about the gym hours, but more like, if y'all are on the site, it'd be kind of nice when you're not in the office right there seeing what's happening, and then that will keep on in.
It's not now. There's readers there, but I mean, for the first 2 months I was here, I badged in every time I came in, and then I went, wait a second, you don't have to have. Yeah.
So the precedent is open until 10:30 right now,
11.
11, but you have key in and just.
Correct.
I think we should change that. So I think,
Key in period.
Yeah, I agree.
so then is that a motion or is that just something we want to do? I'm just gonna change it. Okay, so then there's still a motion of the gym hours. We want to be cognizant of cleaners being able to get in there. Do you think it's 4 hours or 5 hours?
Six for the midnight? Is that what you propose?
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Although that this, make a motion to change the gym operating hours from 4 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week, and to change the signage to appropriately reflect that, and to notify the constable's office of the change in the times. If it's approved.
Should we include like the basketball court as well? Because that goes in with the timing of the basketball court too.
Yeah, you're gonna put lights on it and everything, try to start becoming a kind of a public nuisance, you have to be worried about, right? Full access to the pool, and now it's like, let's take the gym for now.
Okay.
That's what I know.
That sounds good. Sorry for everything about me. All right, so that's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, two girls seconds. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, we're on to 9. So this one is resident ID checks at the pool. Some have reported that non-residents have access to the Belterra pool via access box. Therefore, the topic of checking resident IDs before entering has been brought up.
I'm not sure how the logistics of that. would work.
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna be checking the IDs?
I think this is problems at a number of levels. First and foremost is we don't have staff that's on site the entire time that the pool's open, so who is gonna be checking those IDs? Second, I can see residents saying, no, I have a file, where are you checking my ID?
We'll just do ice scans.
We've got.
That's exactly what
Problem, major problem.
I mean, I heard that there may be residents out or people out there that have fobs that they're not residents, that possibly a resident just gave it to their friend and said, yeah, sure.
And it's.
Oh, and Kat had asked me about, limiting the number of fobs, and
not necessarily limiting, but you get 2 per household unless you show proof of having somebody 13 or older, which is the age to be able to access the amenities, like a birth certificate or something, and you show that when you came to pay for your fob, right, is the idea.
They go, we have seen online, and when of spots have Airbnb. A lot of the Airbnb advertisements in the neighborhood as they come up before they get taken down, advertise for like, this is all the amenities on there.
So they don't see
But they foster that, so.
And I saw a Facebook post where somebody's like, I recently moved out of Belterra, but I missed the pool. Like, name your price and I'll buy a file from you. And I was like,
I think it's a relatively, in grand scheme of things, a small problem, but I think you're gonna have that at any pool. There's always gonna be people who are accessing the pool who don't live there. Oh, yes, they're not, that's fine.
I've had this conversation twice already today.
The day, a lot of
They still do.
Meetings.
You would have to, what you would have to do is, we've got the lifeguards, but then you would have a gate monitor. And you have to pay for a gate monitor to sit there, and it's more than one person, because you determine, you can choose the high usage hours, to have a gate monitor there, but they would literally, you would provide them with a resident list, and they would have to show their ID, check them off, and then they go in. I lived in a community that.
I was doing it. Oh,
Well, there's a cost issue, I mean, I think it's logistically impractical.
And then if the tenant's name doesn't match, we have to register every tenant in the community to make sure that they,
Right.
yeah. It's a logistical.
I mean, we're getting what, 15 hours?
30 an hour.
We're not paying a lifeguard.
Yeah.
That's paying a lifeguard company.
Yeah.
That's the service they did their part. So if we were to go with a lifeguard company, and you'd have to have, I mean, assuming
But they don't,
2 people per day, that's $30 an hour for what, 2 per day, 7 days a week, but lifeguards are in the site all the time, so that still. We would be paying for somebody to fix a problem only during a set period of time during the day. At tens of thousands of dollars additional expense to HOA. And it still wouldn't fix this perceived problem outside of the hours of the lifeguard to be inside anyway.
But then you have all of the other more visible problems of enforcement of existing rules, cleanliness and things. I think there are so many other issues that would have to be solved first. And we would have to prove that everybody is well behaved, and everything is being kept clean, and all of these things. And when all of those were held, then we have unauthorized visitors being the cause of rules being broken, causing the mass, causing limited access. Like only after we got to that point, does it couldn't something where I could ever see spending the money to fix that, but then it's also how much do I inconvenience every daily, 2,000 residents to try and catch the 10 or 15 or 50 that are causing a violation, and how big is that? So on principle, deeply offended. In practical terms, though, I don't want to solve this problem in any reasonable way. It will be better. I
wouldn't want to be a teenage lifeguard, just want to follow. And the Belterra soccer mom that's mad that she's getting the right insurance.
That was expensive.
I was about to.
I don't know how big a problem it is for us to put the community through that and additional expenditure or funds.
Well, we can do it as weeks. We can do every other week and just, this evening doing the check. Because I came here with that, and just, I can do things fast. I came here Saturday, the other day, Saturday. A little group of 10, 12 people. And somebody came up and door, let everybody do. And you have that going all day.
Yeah, I agree. That's
You know,
that right there is that you're not allowed to do this, you only need to be imagine it. Like that's a written rule that should be directly enforced. That once you want to sign isn't an additional inconvenience you need to show. So that's why, like all of those things, you can come to a different set of rules to address. And then when you find that this is still a problem, you have the choice of whether you want to do it, but. Yeah, you make sure it goes back, yeah, you don't leave trash or whatever. Then we
So
can't
you're
just.
saying that to be the lifeguard saying, hey, don't let those people in or go back
So
out.
it's like we need to enforce the rules of our pool as they exist today, and all of those rules are being enforced, and then we still have a problem, then we can talk about changing the rules to make them more strict. But if there's something that's already written that isn't being held up, then we gotta start with that, before we change them.
Also, do we know if those people were actually not residents? How do we know that the people who just like came in were not residents?
Yeah, I've opened the pool gate for my friends that live here.
So like the person who opened the door every now and then, and knew they were resident.
Like, can we not bring friends to the pool?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, there's a limit.
There is.
It still comes down to, if we're even seriously consider this, who does it?
And there's a cost associated with it.
Yeah, we can't ask the current lifeguard staff to take on that role in addition. The lifeguards here on the tower, they have, yeah, they have to. The lifeguards that aren't on the tower are doing other responsibilities that require not one by their position, so this would literally be hiring another personnel to sit there and help them.
Some of our communities don't have lifeguards for the lifeguarding part, and then they'll just have a security company that they hire. That is the monitor. I mean, it's still gonna be like 35 an hour.
So the concern about that is liability, having a resident enforce that, if someone got angry, there's an altercation, it was with us, and we are now liable for what that volunteer does. And so the volunteer, that's why we make sure we have vendors with insurance. Like, so I understand the cover our people would be willing to sit there. But I don't know if that's our best option liability. So there has been a lot of discussion on this, thank y'all so much. So at this point, I'm just gonna ask, is there a motion on the resident ID checks of the pool? So you can say what your motion, what you want to be.
We can. Change that.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? All right, so that motion fails. Before we move to open, is that correct?
Is there something we can revisit?
So here's a fun fact. 4 members can make a motion on any topic at any time.
Yeah, that's what
We can actually use this right now.
I was about to ask if there was that. before we-
So. A couple months back, we were having issues with the restrooms in the pool. We raised the topic of janitorial service at the time. You had expressed concerns, some of the things that Janet came doing, so that came up in the conversation today. We tabled it and said, let's, we just have to deal with it quickly, it's going to cost us. So I move that we issue an RFP for janitorial service. And in doing so, we develop an RFP using the process. Diego is willing to help with that. And help with format, I think Fred has expressed interest in helping, so. The motion is to put together a formal RFP with enhanced coverage schedule, cleaning for janitorial services. And send that out to bid. And second.
All right, so.
One clarifying point, I'm not excluding Janet King from bidding on new scope of work, so you're fine to include them in getting that feedback. I don't think we hate them, maybe we do, but this is, we need to better define what a good job looks like.
So the motion has happened, there's been a second, it's still sweet in your body. Because this was an item that was not on the agenda, it is open for comments from the residents. before the board makes a vote. So is there anybody who would like? The president would like to comment on this?
I'm the resident.
No, this is on Janet King, creating an RFP for Janet King. For, oh, sorry, that's for Janet, for any janitorial service.
An enhanced scope of work that better higher level performance that we have today. So we're not going to fully what exists in the existing contract. We're gonna bump it up an option to make sure it's dirty cool that.
So we've done a service for the entire, you know, for years and.
Here and
And the transfer to yes, about that.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
because I have a passion to serve, we don't even have to say, because now we've talked about at least two situations where we want to go out for bid, which is good. We just need to make sure that we not use that leverage only when we're unhappy or something's happened. Because pretty soon then it becomes the reputation that if we're going out to bid, the current player is up for being fired. So what we want to do is buy into the process that X amount of time as a standard operating procedure, we take our vendors for bid. And then on occasion, the vendor that has it today may be the vendor that gets awarded tomorrow. And for the second reason behind that, there is not a huge surplus of these vendors who want to come and do service here. So we need to be careful that when we kick them in the shins, we're aware that there may not be a list of 27 who want to come do the work for Sunday. The purpose behind going out and getting bids is to build the most robust relationship between us and our vendors, so it serves them and it serves us. That's all, it's just a community announcement. I don't want to see us misuse that bidding process because it will come back up on us.
I agree, and we've actually talked to the board about how often we want to bid out. Because we definitely need to bid out more than we have in the past.
Absolutely.
And so that's why you hear a lot of like, oh, let's bid this out, it's because it hasn't been done in a very long time.
And
But we do agree with you.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so let's be some other vendor at some point and put that out for bid. Because it's good practice for us, and it also sends a note that we're willing to stay with them. We want the vendors to stay 5 or 6 years. We just want them to be competitive and deliver. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's all.
And any other, thank you so much, that was a very good point.
So we're going to have passion about it. So.
No, it's, you're talking to the board, we're asking about it. Yeah, all right, is there any other resident comment? Awesome, so is there any board discussion?
I just want to make sure we have this fine. We're not starting to subscribe. No way to go on the law.
This is only discussion about Pete's motion,
Oh, that's what, okay.
but I do understand,
No.
okay.
That's just what they're going to issue. That's important.
Absolutely, and especially as March makes that time, but that's coming. All right, then, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries and unanimously. And I believe that's all of our business. Thank you for being. Thanks for being patient with us as we work through that. We would like to open the floor to any residents for opening comments.
So number 10 is not going to be discussed.
Oh, it's number 10.
Belterra versus.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. It is on the agenda. Thank you so much for pointing that out. My copy did not have that. Surprise, number 10, y'all. We have not opened it up to resident report yet. So essentially, what happened is, it sounds like we have a rule that's right.
Sorry, it wasn't on the script because I didn't know it got added to the agenda.
Oh, really?
I'm going out. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, that's weird. So. Right now, garage sales can only happen once a quarter. And, that happens, Byron sends out a notice, people sign up. And then he sends out a map, great organization for that. But it doesn't seem like we have a rule for estate sales that kind of gets bucketed under that. And so recently there was an estate sale, although we're kind of confused what happened. Somebody picked up the signs and told them that the estate sale couldn't happen because it's not the garage sale weekend. Obviously people don't wait to pass away until garage sale weekend. But I talked to Mark and she said it wasn't her or Darren who did this, so we're not quite sure on who did it. But, so this was, somebody added this to the agenda to discuss creating a separate rule for estate sales.
I got the impression that maybe it was another resident and that they were picking up their signs, their estate sale signs or something.
I don't know, I have no idea what happened.
I saw the chatter on Facebook, was it your estate sale, man?
No, I'm curious, because, yeah,
So-
because I'm a resident, so I just saw number 10, I have nothing for people to just.
Yeah. Well, was it you? So, we had this generally with it, or?
I think so.
I mean, you can't, it was on the published agenda.
Yeah.
That's
But it's like, and then usually if someone dies, you need to sell everything in the house. So it's an estate sale. Yeah.
State sale is higher company.
Correct. Yeah.
And coming to them because of debt or something, it's just.
I think they'll use the phone.
Yeah, so, this point,
Yeah, no, yeah.
Basically, as I understand it from what I was witnessing on Facebook, was somebody on Masonbury at an estate sale, they were death in the family. They hired a vendor to put up several $100s worth of signs around the community, advertising for the estate sale, and the signs disappeared. Somebody at some point said that they were taking them down because the HOA says that they cannot have estate sale signs up. I haven't heard who the person was, I didn't see on Facebook anybody identify who the person was, and Marcia says it wasn't any of our people.
Hey, we don't need to keep out still.
And it wasn't there, so we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone's gonna have a estate sale, and they go, you to request that, ahead of time.
Well, as it stands, we have garage sales set on certain months of the year, so there is no mechanism for us to approve and off.
So I think right to separate the issues. There's the act of the sale itself, which could be bound by certain constraints, and there's the act of advertising, which looks the same as somebody else might have. I don't care if there's an estate sale every week, I don't know. But I might care that I see an estate sale sign every day of the year for different estate sales I go on into my home, so I think there's value in approaching it from those two different sides, right? Estate sales need to happen, they can happen on weekdays between these hours with approval of. So CCMC.
So we can draft an estate sale policy.
I've been to the estate sale, and there were no signs, you found out about the estate sale online.
They can sometimes look at, you know, those little corrugated plastic signs that get stuck into the ground, and that's why I thought maybe it was WCID that took them down, because they would then on WCID property. But they'll say, you know, estate sale this way, like open house signs, we see those all the time too.
So that's my next question. I'm afraid that I remember the 16 hours on this place on the neighborhood. I know I see real estate signs all the time. I know I see roof construction signs.
You can just put one sign on your
I
property.
believe that policy also says specifically.
Yeah, during the election.
During the election season, I had a sign that says, Bob Lake, I'm not running for anything. I really didn't have that.
I love it.
But Do we have?
Did you pull that one, Marcia, this time?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Like I said, takes up pretty hard.
But then you also have the signs that, you know, my daughter's a cheerleader at, you know, such and such a school and they're proud signs.
Do we have a policy currently on displaying of signs to neighborhood that covers other than religious? Or religious, with our religious?
You know, so just the.
Yeah.
Well, even though we look at holistically, because those signs that stay up on the corner, sometimes stay up forever, even after, I'm like, it's Monday morning.
Yeah.
And it still says estate sale, or, sorry, open house, Saturday and Sunday.
Also the signs in their yards versus signs in the common areas. Probably a policy
We can
that.
make sign in covers.
No, that's not our policy.
Yeah, we can only make a sign that covers our. We don't make a policy that covers signs on how, yeah. As far as HOA is concerned. All right.
Will we need to change CCNRs? If you draft the policy?
No. As long as the policy that the board is promulgating is not, in conflict with the CCNRs, as long as it helps to further define or clarify what's already there, so this wouldn't.
So basically, we cannot do things without a community goals. Okay.
Within reason.
Well, it's more explanatory, I think, right? Adding something
Yeah,
new.
we can clarify rules, we can define an estate sale versus garage sale, because we already have a policy that covers garage sales in the CCNRs, but we can't just craft an entire policy without putting it to a community vote, correct?
No, it's a policy resolution, it's
For
further
changing
defined,
the CCNR, we can't do.
can't change it.
So it sounds like we would like to create a policy where people who want to do an estate sale reach out to management for approval. But I don't think we need to set days and times. I think we just let management either approve or not approve, or when you name the booths.
So I've had garage sale policies with other communities before, and there are certain parameters, you just put, you know, like no signs, you can't advertise signs, but you can advertise in, you know, whatever estate sale, the newspaper, forums or whatever they are, and maybe it's you can have one estate sale per year or something, to where you're pretty much covered, you know, you're not going to have only one estate sale in a year. We can work out the details, but yes, to answer your question, we can.
Are we looking to craft the specifics of that policy right now, or just asking Martha broadly to create a policy?
And then for and we wanna.
Yes, have examples of
Yes.
policy that covers space.
Yes, I've got a jumping off point, we can.
Just send, well,
Yeah.
send, yes.
Yes.
Flag not needed to share. First.
So if this policy isn't technically changing CCNRs or the bylaws, how can we enforce non-compliance?
It's.
And so it's changing bylaw, it's. It really becomes a bylaw and it's clear.
You know, technically it doesn't become a bylaw, it becomes there's a hierarchy of the governing officers, where we went over that in the board training. And policies and resolutions are at the bottom when you're going to resolve an issue, which document prevails. And policy and resolutions are towards the bottom, however, they are designed to help clarify, you know, anything that's maybe in the CCNRs or silent from the CCNRs.
Okay, so they are enforcing.
Yes, yeah, they are, absolutely. Yeah.
So would anybody like to make a motion?
I think Pete does.
I think he expected his eyes.
I don't feel like there's anything to move at the moment. Marcia's got an accident and she's.
Yeah.
Okay, we have made it past item 10 then, and we are open to resident forum. So we open the floor to any resident who would like to make a comment. All right, Steve, come on up.
I was having a little trouble. Steve Hoxie, local resident. I was having a little difficulty with item number 6. That would be the plantings around the grounds here.
Yeah.
Some things to consider. Number one, excuse me, the damage is already done with the summer drought and so on, so I don't see an issue with anything immediate on this. I think what's important here is to look at the timing for the plants. Most plants would be better transplanted when it's cooler and not now when it's so hot. So that would put it into the fall. A lot of plants are better transplanted when they're dormant in winter. So those are considerations need to be made. A lot of the plants that you mentioned on the list, they're pretty much all zone 8. About 2/3 of them I looked at were natives, so that's all good. Another thing to consider is landscaping contractors have a dead zone in their annual schedule, and that's the holidays. So they're very not busy then. So if we were to go to bid on this, get a much better figure doing it at that time than right now.
So I have some new information since we just got item 6 that may buffer your arguments right now.
Sure.
Our friendly neighborhood WCID2 president texted me
Thank you.
immediately after we were discussing item number 6. For conservation of the drought contingency plan, we're in stage 3, and one of the stipulations is that no new landscaping may be installed, and units 1 and 2 will not grant variances right now. So it's.
That was easy. But we just to clarify, I wasn't proposing we do it right now, it would be a decision for a future. In the fall, already, that's why it's called fall plantings, so. Just wanted to be clear that I would never.
Well, I didn't know that,
suggest
Bob,
do
but yeah, it makes sense.
Yes.
And so it sort of corroborates what I was saying, that the timing for the plants as well as the contractors and everything would be into the fall holiday season, and they're very slow.
What is our?
Number 12.
I think you completely lost here, but I think, I feel like I've seen some landscaping companies also advertise putting up Christmas lights.
Yes, those are typically, like I said, smaller companies that a lot of times they don't meet the insurance requirements. So that's where, and if the board's willing to sign a hold harmless stating, you know, giving CCMC the direction to engage them, even though knowing that they don't have the appropriate insurance, sure, but yeah, we keep going with that.
Would we be liable if they do that though?
Yes, that's what the direction to engage hold harmless is absolving CCMC of any responsibility because the board chose to engage someone that doesn't meet our insurance requirements.
However, somebody said shine while ago, so a lot of the window companies clean, do the installations, because they have all the equipment that have to be loud, and guess what, they don't clean windows in December. So they are bigger companies, and they do have the cover.
I'm not saying there's not out
No,
there.
but I'm saying, I think she mentioned China, that those are good companies to go out and do that here. And on the subject of landscaping, if I could just go along with you on that.
Sure.
I would be amazed if we get out of this drought well enough by October, that WCID is gonna allow any variances. That's not, we're not gonna see plantings allowed by them by those things until well into next spring. It'll take that long if we even have a shot at getting the water resource back where it has to be. So we can get 3 good rains and we wouldn't want to have here now.
I'm so far behind.
Yeah, so I don't think those plantings are gonna happen.
Good point, anyway, okay.
Well, just to conclude, yeah, we may have to do something closer to zero scaping, say in the front where it's beating sun all day. But finally, I think it's important that we also look at that. For $7,800 of 3 pictures does not look like that much plants and labor to me. So I think we need to review the design in a lot more detail. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Steve, for your time and Thank you.
Hi, this is Irma Martinez, and I sent in a request. I'm on the phone. To Marcia Hove, have you seen that?
Yes, I did.
Can you please talk about that or present the question?
She does question for a forum in order to increase the internet opportunities and better Manage expenses, can we contact Google Fiber and Verizon to make them accessible as options for residents?
Great idea.
I think the answer is, we can look into it.
Can you please? Because I've been asking for a while, but I've been asking the officers, I guess, of our HOA, but I would really like to see competition here. That's what we're lacking.
And so just to be clear, unlike other communities where the resources are captive, they own the streets, they own the conduits under the streets, they determine the vendors, like, that's not our situation. We're much closer to a regular municipality where, I don't know, AT&T might own the phone lines into the homes, and then Google or whoever will have to pay to get in those same conduits. So somebody cold emailed the board a few months back asking to become our new internet provider of choice and saying, we can be your new captive providers. Like, you honestly don't understand how we work at all in this community. So I agree with the spirit. I would love the services you outline. I'd love to have them. But this, we can nudge and say, hey, great, there's a 2,000 home community out here that would love to have those. But it's a very different paradigm than a lot of other communities of this size have. They actually control the service providers and negotiate those contracts.
I think it's worth exploring the options.
You can absolutely pay and ask that question, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking and for your time. Do we have anyone else that should speak?
Yeah, Jim Maziak. So I appreciate you passed the motion on the pickleball courts, but Marcia's going to get a bit on cutting all the shoulder height grass that's around the tree. But the corner of Mesa Drive and Mendocino is perfectly flat. So, relatively speaking, and there are a few trees there. You've got power in there to the splash pad, you've got utilities, you've got parking. And you got, I don't know the acreage, but you could put in 10 pickleball courts in that area if you wanted to. So before you start spending any money on this one, I mean, someone should just go take a look there and say, what would it take to put those here? Because there's not a lot of excess parking out here. So when you put the pickleball courts here, and if there are other events going on, it's really gonna, and you can't any more parking spots here. But if you remove it, leave the basketball court alone, put the pickleball courts, at least consider it, or take there, you reduce your mowing expense. And you just take out some trees. And so it's something to look at and say what would it cost to do that, but that land's untouched. And people complain about that corner anyway, so it might be something to consider.
Thank you so much for your thought. So on that, we're actually working right now on a schedule. And part of that is going to be requesting what residents would like to see in the neighborhood. And then after that, we're going to work to create a community survey. So at this point, I would be hesitant to randomly pick a spot and say this is a great spot for pickleball.
Sure.
Because with the amenity survey, we want to build out where things would go, so that way they would fit well together. Because I wouldn't want to put that somewhere and then be like, oh man, how do we put that in this way than we put it down there?
Sure.
And so I love the idea, but that's gonna take a few more steps.
Yeah, Marcia's calling up the area.
Where is that amenity survey?
And to see our other side. Yeah. Yeah, the trail, there's a trail there, but in a trail, you could change the trail path pretty easy. But, and I don't know the area there, but again, you've got, someone, one of the kids want to play splash pad. Someone who's go play pickleball. So there are just some options. I'm just saying, just to look at it, because you clearly have land use issues. So.
Yeah, so-
Drainage issues, impervious ground cover issues, right, so yes, there's, but yeah, the point is valid, it's important to make sure we have that list of barriers on each of these places, so we can evaluate and make smart decisions about where.
Sure.
It's a great spot for future reference, and I think you wouldn't want lights there because of the resident.
Right.
But
Something I don't think
would you explore that idea before you then?
No, we would go ahead and expand the motion and approve it, so we'll.
So you'll spend the money here, and if you discover that it's better over there,
We can
you're
always
gonna
build it
expand
in.
again.
Usually it's. Well, it was already brought up about, maybe we may have to put in another basketball court because of pickleball, maybe so popular that becomes pickleball court, and maybe basketball over there, it's just possible.
So
Well, we just don't want to put something in just for speed of time and later regret it, and we would have moved it over 3 feet. Without.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Doesn't the same apply, I mean, I work with people ball, I do, I think that'd be great. But when are you doing the survey? For the amenities piece?
So we're gonna get the annual survey out, and then it's once we get the responses from that, and then we're gonna work on the amenities.
So there's,
So that's down the pipe.
Yeah, it's way down.
so there's a huge difference in modifying an existing construction.
Okay.
To pickleball courts versus starting a complete new project.
That's gonna be the engineering report.
Everything, yeah, we would have to do a complete engineering survey on that site to make sure that the ground can actually hold it, which is that $90,000 price tag that I was referencing.
I have a
And go ahead.
The $90,000 that you guys mentioned for the engineering's survey. I have no clue if that's industry standard or not, but was that like maybe bid out, like?
It was bid out, and from my work with the other board that I serve on, that was actually much lower than what we had paid to build
Wow.
the investigations.
I picked the wrong career.
Yeah, we all did.
Got trends.
It's an extensive survey. I mean, you look at the
Yes.
soil drainage, I mean, you know, utilities, everything. So it's, yeah, it's just not, you know, Kentucky windage. It's
Which is part of the reason with the amenity survey, we want to see how much people
sure.
would be willing to pay to potentially get it down. Like, that's gonna be all built into that. So thank you so much for your comment and for pointing out that parcel of land. It does look like it could be a great
For
possibility.
something, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure we can figure out something for it in the future.
I have to add something here, that spot that you were referring to, there's a bunch of homes right next to that,
Yeah.
little hall is quite a lot of sport, so you might end up driving those people crazy.
That's true.
I was actually, I recently, like, in those couple of days ago, like, some people were actually fleeing their homes because of that. They were like so angry about the noise, they were just selling and leaving. Because it's loud, so. I feel here, people will not hear anything, it's like here, but.
Marsha, we apologize for the noise. All right, great. Thank you so much for the good comment and the great conversation. We really appreciate all being here. Is there any other resident comment?
The only other thing I'll say, I think you guys are doing a great job. Thank you very much for coming together nicely. I just want to remind you that you don't have to solve everything. And it's a privilege and we have a lot of great benefits here in Belterra. But there's a responsibility to being here as well. So when we stumble over things like this host, access to the pool, I think that's a great something to put in the newsletter to say it's a two-sided sword. If you want to have a great pool, there's a responsibility. And the responsibility is you don't loan your whatever they keep off to somebody else. You don't open the gate and just let a slew of people come in without knowing who those people are. So I think that's a good avenue to remind that responsibilities. And another place I lived, about every 2 years or 3 years, we actually did a accounting of the costs. Ours had a little number on the back of them, so every 3 years we audited to see if we could say, okay, file number 973, each to the longest terrace, Terry, can show us your file, yeah, it's still good. And then we found out that there were files missing and we could void those files. I don't know if that's a possibility, but we've done that in other places.
It absolutely is. It may be time to do it again, well, what you're thinking of is when the amenities were reopened after COVID. Everybody's got changed and you had to come in and read and complete the new waiver and talk about, COVID stuff. So that was kind of done then, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to do.
Is that something that you could look into or that important?
She's got a million money.
We are not going to do that to board meeting. Sarah, please tell her. And thank you for the refreshments. Are there any other resident comments?
I was, also, since you're gonna send out reminders, I've been coming to the gym, not lately on a regular basis, but I have noticed when I've come that there are children, without supervision. The other day that I did come, I saw, it didn't appear that the child that was on the treadmill was of school age and was on the treadmill with a parent, but still on the treadmill. So I think a reminder about what the rules are.
But they were both on it at the same time?
No, just the child was on
Okay.
the treadmill and it was going pretty. I mean, I don't think I could have run that.
That's an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seriously.
Is there, I mean, the YMCA is 13. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is.
Themselves.
I have, when I've seen, children, whatever they're, not older ones, I have asked them, if I don't see a parent, I have asked them, how old are you?
Well, I was thinking after rehearsing that through again, so.
Well, this is lady.
Well, it happens during the day too, especially after school lets out and they're kind of running them up and I mean, I go in there, put my mom hat on and I agree with you.
Yeah, I do too, and if there's not a parent also, you can't be here, you gotta go. But, just different.
All right, well, are there any other comments? All right, so thank you all so much for coming to our meeting tonight. It was a pleasure to hear your comments and a pleasure to work with you other board members. With no further business to consider, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:40 p.m.
Motion.
All right, may I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Have a wonderful evening. I'll keep it far.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. All their windows. Yeah, our line is that running.
Small, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, we did have this meeting, which I just have. They're along the same lines, they're, trying to think like, all this way.
So we got. And that's all. You can get. Yeah. So. Is, if we go this way, it's good, if we go this way, it's gonna impact on this. Well, see, the baseball, well, it's usually. Here.
Like, I have.
Oh my God.